Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Editor Kill Fee by G. Collins, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Anita Juarez was going to be late to chair the Santa Fe Wine and Crime Mystery Readers Group. She was current president of the club, even though she lived in Pecos to the southeast of the capital city. The office needed her to finish some last-minute press releases promoting the Pecos National Historical Park, where she worked. She had reluctantly agreed to work later than planned. Now it would be a struggle to make her meeting. Their guest speaker this week, Taylor Browning, the mystery editor at Pinion Publishing. Anita had to be there to introduce her. As president, it was her responsibility to invite interesting and informative speakers. Taylor had emailed her bio and a discussion to Synopsis. It promised to be an interesting tutorial about book publishing. Along with her remarks, she promised to bring show-and-tell items that told the journey of a book from manuscript to bookstore. The club members would love it. Distracted, she missed her turnoff to Interstate 25. Anita continued until she bounced over a cattle guard. Jarred from her thoughts, she realized her location. "Oh, no," she said in disgust. "I can't believe I did this." She found herself on 63A, a forest road that leads to an abandoned fire lookout tower called by some the Devil's Tower. More alarming, her sudden awareness she was driving the legendary road. It was famous, more infamous, for good reason. Several people had disappeared in that area. "I'll look for a turnaround when I get the chance," she mumbled to herself. She passed a bicyclist who pedaled back to town. He stopped to let her pass and waved. Anita didn't notice him. She was absorbed in finding a good place to make a U-turn. The road was drivable at first, but as she progressed, it became rutted and steep. Eventually, she knew it was all but impassable. Only the most off-road worthy four-wheel drive vehicle could hope to reach the end. At least that is what she'd heard, having never ventured out this way. She regretted her bout of highway hypnosis that had put her on this unscheduled excursion. After about 15 minutes of axle braking, bumping, and grinding, Anita found a spot wide enough to turn the car around if she could avoid the deep ditches. With a sigh of relief, she turned her white Honda as far as she dared and then backed up. Certain she would clear the ditch, she accelerated slowly. Maybe she would only be a few minutes late for the meeting after all. The radio stopped playing and the dash lights went out. Despite turning the steering wheel, the car was still headed straight for the ditch. Even with a hard left, the car wasn't responding. An abrupt coldness settled over her. Maybe there was a front coming through. Anita applied the brakes to no avail. The car slid on gravel along the edge of the road, causing her stomach to lurch. Turning was futile, and she momentarily wondered why she still had her hands clenched on the wheel if it was not responding. With a lurch, the passenger side front wheel fell sharply into the ditch. Anita tried repeatedly to start the vehicle, but it was pointless. Nothing but unfriendly sounds churned from the engine. "Well, that's that," she said. She took a quick look around the interior of the car. Her meeting notes had slid out of the manila envelope. The list of expected guests the members were bringing rested on the floor mat. Reaching for it strained her shoulder strap, so she unfastened the belt. When she had the list in her hand, she saw that name again. It seemed to pulsate on the page. "Why our meeting?" she demanded from the silence. She had circled the offending name at home. Next to it, she had written, "No." How dare he show up at her club? Anita could feel the knot in her stomach she noticed when something distasteful or frightening emerged in her life. Maybe her car getting stuck wasn't the worst thing that could happen. At least she'd missed that encounter. With a shove, she opened the driver's door. The crazy angle of the car made the effort an uphill battle. Once out, she walked around the front of the car to look at the damage. It was going to be a long walk back to Pecos. This quandary would require a tow truck with a winch. The right front tire was wedged between the walls of a deep trench, euphemistically called a ditch. What a wretched angle. Front-end work would be necessary. The dollar signs accumulated in her mind. She didn't want to calculate the sum. Repairs would be bad for her budget. "I'll get my purse and head back," she thought. "I can probably be home shortly before dark. I'm not afraid of a little walking." Before she could retrieve her things, something stopped her. The silence was complete, not even a bird sang. It, whatever it was, seemed almost palpable but not visible. Motionless like a startled deer, she listened intently. In the distance, something cried an eerie high sound. She didn't recognize it, but thought it too far away to be dangerous. "Whatever is that?" she whispered. "And when did I begin talking to myself?" Concerned, but not afraid, she tried again to return to her car, but she couldn't seem to move her feet in that direction. Anita looked around her and saw only trees, but something seemed to move in and around them. A miasma undulated in the forest. It was mostly clear, but seemed to have folds mixed in. It reminded her of rumbled plastic wrap. But what could it be? An unease settled over her as it approached. The closer it came, the more alarmed she became. And still, she couldn't move. It reached her and wrapped around her. She felt entrapped and short of breath. It seemed to be squeezing her gently, constricting her movement. Now she was frightened. She wondered if the people who had disappeared from this area had the same experience. Before she could consider this further, something caught her attention. She looked up and appeared to listen. Anita stood on Devil's Road under a perfect blue sky and nodded as though in agreement. That's when she felt pulling. She was at its mercy as she walked to the side of the road, cautiously stepped over the ditch, steadied herself against a tree, and disappeared into the forest along with the mysterious haze.